Welcome back, everybody. I'm Reese, and in this episode, the Introverted Nerd watches Season 3, Episode 8 of Saved by the Bell-Miss Bayside. I'm so happy to be back doing Saved by the Bell again. I'm recording on Black Lightning Tuesday, and honestly, I just needed something to do to just to get me to Black Lightning. And I thought, why not be a productive person and actually record a podcast so you can put out a podcast, Saved by the Bell podcast this week, because that's what you do. And you're being lazy. And you could have done it on Saturday like you were supposed to, but you didn't. Yeah, that was everything that was going through my head before I started recording this. So right off the top, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at TINerdPod, on Instagram at TheIntrovertedNerd, and like the Facebook page, facebook.com/TheIntrovertedNerd. And if you get time, please subscribe to the podcast. And while you're there on Apple Podcasts, don't say iTunes. That's what's going through my head. As I was like ready to say iTunes, but while you're over on Apple Podcasts, that's just such a mouthful. Apple has to do something about that. Anyway, while you're over there, please leave me a 5-star review. I will read it on the podcast, and let's get into this episode because it's all about feminism and Miss Bayside and fake equality and a bunch of bullshit that, all the things we love about Saved by the Bell. So Belding is announcing the annual Miss Bayside pageant. And, okay, it's like, I guess Jessie, I always think is the school president, class president or something, because, and we had a class president episode. What was that, in season 2? Some episode in season 2 where Zack tried to run for class president, blah blah blah. But I think Jessie is still president from then. It's like, is class president like actual president where there's just like a 4-year term where Jessie is just going to be class president for the next 4 years of high school? Yeah, I don't know how the Bayside election system works. Go back and watch that episode. Listen to my podcast about that episode because it was some crazy shit. Yeah. So, but Jesse's like is on stage with Mr. Belding while he's announcing this because she's the class president, and she acts like she's surprised that he's announcing this. It's like, girl, did you not know that this was coming up? This is Mr. Bayside, not Mr. Bayside, Mr. Belding says this is an annual competition. Annual. That's yearly, correct? I mean, maybe in Bayside land, annual means something different, but I assume annual means that there has actually been a Miss Bayside competition before, that Jessie has actually witnessed this happen. So why is she up there like surprised? And she's, feminism, blah, blah, blah. I don't mean to do that, but you know how Jessie is. She's just like, shut up, Jessie. And, but while this is happening, while Jessie is doing her feminism thing and being surprised, Zack starts a swimsuit chant, and Slater starts yelling at Jessie that she should be in a bikini. And Mr. Belding, the principal, if you didn't already know that, the fucking principal he is just standing there like taking it, like throwing stern looks at people. But I'm like, dude, you have your class president who's a woman, a young woman talking about feminism. And then you have these two douchebags yelling out, starting bikini chants and yelling that she should be in a swimsuit. And he says nothing. Mr. Belding is like, he goes brain dead when anybody does anything like inappropriate in front of him. He just goes completely brain dead. He shuts down. And he only reanimates when it's time to start blackmailing Zack. That's when he reanimates. It's just so ridiculous. Mr. Belding, he's a terrible principal. And if you didn't know that already, Mr. Belding sucks. He is not a good principal. So it's also, okay, this Miss Bayside thing leads to the Miss High School California pageant. Are high school pageants a thing? Because I was ready to get I wasn't ready. I was while I was watching. I was like, this is some bullshit. Like, are there really high school pageants? See, I've never been a part of the pageant world. I don't know shit about pageants except like Miss America and even then, I've never watched a pageant before. And so I don't know anything about it. And I was like ready to be like, this is some bullshit. But then I was going to get on here. I was going to, say that it was bullshit. But then I'd be on here and what I think is like bullshit. And there are like tons of high school pageants, and California has the Miss High School California pageant. And maybe that is a real thing. I don't know why I drive myself crazy, because I'm never going to do any research on this. So it doesn't even matter, but it's the shit I think about. It's why you come here, right? You want to hear me talk about just the bullshit that's happening here, and just my random thoughts about the happenings in Bayside land. So Jessie and the gang, the Super Six, or 5 of the Super Six at least, are at the max as usual. And Jessie is talking about how the pageant is sexist, and how she thinks it's holding women back. And Kelly is the girl that says, well, hey, girls, don't these the feminists that you admire so much, don't they wear bikinis to the beach? And it's like, Kelly, if you can't add anything good to the conversation, just shut your ass up. And of course, Zack agrees, and he's like, ooh, Jessie, can you explain why a woman would wear a bathing suit? And it's such, okay, it's like, I can tell that this is written by men who just discovered what feminism is, either just discovered what it is, or they've heard of it before and they're like, this is bullshit. So we're going to make Jessie the most insufferable person, and we're just going to throw a bunch of bullshit out there at her, and she won't be able to defend it. And, and they did a good job of that, because I don't like Jessie either. I like to consider myself a feminist, and I do not like Jessie. At certain times. I mean, she's a real bitch sometimes. She's just terrible. And I don't hate her as much as I hate Screech, but there are times, I mean, you've heard my podcast before. You know how I feel about Jessie a lot of the times. So, but okay, here's what happens. Out of nowhere, Kelly changes her mind. Like, Jessie starts spouting her, like, she starts preaching, her Jessie Spano preach. And this changes Kelly's mind for some reason. I don't know why it changes Kelly's mind, but she's convinced by Jessie's feminism to not be a part of the pageant and to protest the pageant, basically. And Zack and Slater are there, and they're high-fiving and being like ridiculous. They sort of brought their swimsuit chant to the max, and they're being like dickheads, and just being Zack and Slater, basically, the douchebags that they are. And Lisa is like, that's all nice for you, Jessie and Kelly, but I'm pretty and I want to be a part of this pageant. And Lisa just basically pieces out and is like, fuck all this noise. I'm going to be a part of the pageant. Sorry, not sorry. So, and out of nowhere, I don't know, I only watched this episode once because a peek behind the scenes, I only watch these episodes once because I'm not, I take notes, but I'm not about the deep dive into Saved by the Bell. Like this is like Westworld or something. I mean, sorry, this ain't that. But, and so maybe if I had been watching closer, I would realize how this happened, but I have no idea how Zack and Slater they decide to make a bet on whether Zack somehow, for some reason, Zack wants to help Lisa with the pageant, and she says no, thanks but no thanks. And Slater starts making fun of him, like, what the fuck do you know about pageants, and how can you help her? And Zack says something about how he's been taping the Miss Universe pageants or something like that. And then they make a bet saying that Zack thinks he can make any person he's thinking a girl, but they don't say girl because, spoiler alert, the person that is picked that Zack is going to help become Miss Bayside is Screech. So they make a $50 bet, and where do they get $50 from? Okay, I don't even know why I go there because I've already said that Zack is rich, but $50 bet in high school seems like a lot. My grandma would have fucked me up if I was out there betting that kind of money on just bullshit. And so Slater, they make the bet. Slater gets to pick who the person is, and he's looking around the max, and they have girls walking by, and he's judging them, and it's gross, but whatever. And then Screech walks in, and it's like, here's your girl. Here's the girl, Zack. It's Screech. And then applause. Kevin the robot returns. Yes. I love Kevin. Hate Screech, love Kevin. So Kevin the robot makes his triumphant return to the show, and this might be the last. Is this the last time we see Kevin the robot? I don't know. I'm going to keep watching, so I'll know eventually when Kevin the robot makes his last appearance on the show. And so Kevin returns, and Zack breaks, sort of tells Screech, like, hey, Screech, I want to help you become Miss Bayside. And Screech is really chill about it. Like, he's not like, what the fuck are you talking about, Zack? He's just like, oh. And his only reason for, not wanting to go along with this thing that Zack wants him to do is that he's a guy, and the pageant is for Miss Bayside. It has to be a girl. And I'm like, Screech, since when have you shown any interest in being in a pageant? Like, why aren't you asking questions? You know what kind of shithead Zack is. He sold your dog. He bet your dog in a poker game and lost your dog. You need to be asking some questions. You built a goddamn robot. You're smarter than this. Like, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with him not asking Zack the appropriate questions. Zack is a piece of shit. And Screech needs to always be, just always be on guard, asking questions. Like, why do you want me to be Miss Bayside? Like, just this real sudden shit. Like, See, now, I wouldn't be friends with somebody like Zack, but if I were to be friends with somebody like Zack, I would constantly be asking questions. And I had a dickhead friend too. when I was in high school. I mean, she was still Zach Morris, but she was a pretty big liar. And she was the kind of person that like my grandma would give me money and to go to the store to get something to eat, and she would be like and she would like try to break it down so that we could both share my money. It was I mean, if I was a different kind of person that wasn't like completely selfish and self-centered, it probably would have worked. Since I don't like to share, it never worked, especially not my money. I never like to share my money. So it didn't really work on me, but she would always try to like play it so that, she ends up sharing your shit. And that's the kind of person kind of the kind of person that Zack is. And Screech just never learns. My dude just never learns a lesson. I mean, I always say that Zack has never learned a lesson, but Screech, another guy, never learned a lesson. He just reboots at the beginning of every episode, and he knows nothing, and he just starts over from the beginning. It's like that what's that movie, 50 First Dates, where he just has that short-term memory and you just have to start all over again with him. So Zack goes to Belding's office to try to enter Screech in the competition, and Jessie and Kelly are the only two people out. They're outside of Mr. Belding's office in the middle of the goddamn hallway, holding picket signs, and Kelly doesn't understand how to do it, so she's like trying to be super happy, trying to do cheers. Kelly's such a dumbass. She's trying to do cheers, and she's fucking it up, and Jessie is like, just be pretty and hold up the sign, and I'll do all the the hard work, Kelly. You just stand there. So when Mr. Belding and Zack are in there, Jessie is starts listening at the door, and she's like, she wants to know what Zack is up to. So Zack says that he wants Screech to enter the Miss Bayside competition, and Belding at first is like against it, but Jessie barges into his office once again. Really? You can just walk into the principal's office like that? Because these kids just walk into Mr. Belding's office like they run the place. Like they, like this is just a public space that they can be in whenever they want. And so Jessie just barges in, and she's like, Mr. Belding, you better let him join this, be in this pageant, because it's sexist and the rules don't say anything about a boy not being able to be in it, blah, blah, blah. And Mr. Belding agrees to it if Jessie agrees to stop her protest. And I'm like, okay, I know, freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. But they are 16 years old. They are teenagers. They are students. They don't really have any rights. They don't have the kind of rights that adults have. I mean, don't get mad at me, high school students. I'm behind you all the way. You want to protest some real shit? I am all about it. I am right with you. But within this context, it's like, you cannot just protest outside of the principal's office. Why didn't he just tell them to go to fuck the class? Like, this is during the school day. This is not after school. There's a ton of kids still around. Just like, be like, shut the fuck up and get your asses into class before you get detention or suspension or whatever. And, and it's all over. That's it. Kelly's not going to want to get in like real trouble. So Jessie would be out there by herself, and then, just send her to detention, Mr. Belding. Once again, not a good principal. or at least not a smart principal, because if I was him, I would have sent Jessie straight to detention. I would be like, get the fuck out of here with this bullshit protest. We're not stopping the pageant, Jessie. It's an annual pageant. You knew it was an annual pageant. Like, shut the fuck up and sit down. I'm so bad. I'm such a terrible dictator. I have a dictator's mentality. I'm like, just shut the fuck up and sit down. It's just always my go-to with with younger people. This is why I don't have kids. I should not have kids. And this is probably why I'm also not a school principal, because I don't enjoy children that much. I don't hate children. I don't hate you kids. But just I want you to sit down and shut the fuck up is what I want. So Mr. Belding agrees. Jessie stops her protest. Kelly is, I don't know, sitting waiting for somebody else to tell her what to do next and what to think next. So Slater is trying to win this bet. So he tricks Jessie into entering by telling her that he's with Jessie and Lisa, and I forget what he says to Jessie, but he makes some kind of comment about how Jessie should want to support the pageant now since it's a co-ed pageant, and this is all a part of her feminist ideals, and she should be on the side of this pageant since it's now equal and equality, and something is gained by this, whatever. So Jessie agrees to that, and she's like, okay, I'll be in the pageant. He tricks Kelly by telling Kelly that Jessie entered the pageant, and Kelly has completely changed her mind again because she's not on that feminist shit anymore. She's like, yeah, I look better than Jessie. I'm that chick. Everybody knows that I'm Kelly Kapowski. I'm the best looking bitch in this school. They can't fuck with me. So I'm entering this pageant too. And so this starts the thing where Kelly, Lisa, and Jessie get mad at each other. Jessie's mad at Kelly for some reason. I don't know, for being pretty. I forget why Jessie's mad. Kelly's mad at Jessie for being a hypocrite. And Lisa is mad at Kelly because she's like, why are you always stealing my goddamn thunder? You weren't going to enter the pageant. You were too good for this. You were over there with, with the suffragette protesting. And now you enter the pageant and you're like stealing my thunder. Like, get the fuck out of here. So, but then they all get their shit together because they're like, we're going up against Screech, and they laugh about it. And, life is beautiful, and they're best friends once again. So we get to see a practice talent competition. Is this how things happen? Because they're all practicing their talents, but it's like explicitly not. It's not the competition. It's not the actual pageant. We just see them having like a practice go at the talent competition. And I'm like, well, would you want everybody to see you practicing your big talent? Don't you want it to be, a surprise for everybody? I don't know, because it seems like you would be giving people a chance to adjust to what you're doing. I don't know. Maybe the talent competition really doesn't mean anything. So, and it doesn't, because Lisa does this long ass violin solo, where she's like really badly fake playing the violin. And the only reason I noticed this is because I used to play the violin. I played the violin for like 5 or 6 years, something like that. And she's got the bow moving all over the place, and her fingers are just, oh my God, it drove me crazy. And I'm not like the best violin. I haven't played violin since I was like 15 or something, 14 or 15 or something like that. So, it's not like I could pick it up and, remember all that shit that I learned when I was like 6 or 7, but it was driving me out of my goddamn mind because it was just so fake. It was terrible. So Jessie does an interpretive dance and she's like a butterfly, blah, blah, blah. Kelly sings, and Slater and Zack are like standing behind the backstage, like watching all of this. And Kelly goes up on stage, and Slater's like, she has the voice of an angel, and my girl starts singing, and she sings, what does she sing? What is the song called? Blue Moon. And she not only is, she not a good singer, she's not even on beat, like moving her body. If you've ever seen Dirty Dancing and you remember baby sister Lisa when she's singing that song, where she's is it The Practice? I believe it's The Practice, where she's singing that I forget what the song is called, but she's singing that ridiculous song that she's singing. And Kelly she just reminded me so much of Lisa from Dirty Dancing in that moment. It was so bad. And Screech is doing a magic competition, and he brings on Kevin, who's the actual, like, his actual talent is building Kevin. I don't know why we did this, he did this fake magic thing, because he didn't do any tricks. He brought Kevin on stage, he revealed Kevin, and then Kevin told a bunch of jokes, but I'm like, dude, your talent was building Kevin. You just bring your goddamn robot on stage, and it's like, look what I did. That's your talent, Screech. See, everybody needs my help, needs me to tell them like what they should be doing, how they should best present themselves. Yeah, that's my new job. Anybody wants to consult, I will tell you how you should best present yourself. Screech should be presenting as a smart person that built a fucking robot back in 1990, whatever year this was, 1992, 1990, 1991, something like that. So Slater sees all this, and he's like, fuck this. I want to win this $50 from Zack. So he goes out, and Slater's the only person that actually has real talent. Like Mario Lopez actually he got on stage, and I guess you can just enter the competition by going on stage and performing, because he didn't fill out anything. He stood backstage, watched all of these people like be mediocre, and he's like, fuck all this noise. I'm going on stage and I'm in the competition now. So Screech is the first boy in the Miss Bayside competition. Slater is the second boy, and he goes on stage. He plays the drums. He's actually really good. And because I think Mario Lopez, actual real life, plays drums. And so this fucks Zack up, because he's like, Slater is good looking. He's got a great body. He's actually talented. He could actually win. And even if he doesn't win, if Screech doesn't win, Zack loses. So Zack trying to come up with a plan, and he didn't really have to come up with a plan. Kevin accidentally hit Screech in the eye with I don't know, he just hit Screech in the eye, and Screech gets a black eye, and Zack turns that into this story about how Slater beat Screech up and gave him the black eye. So Zack starts the rumor, and it's just this bad, they badly film like a game of telephone, and the rumor spreads in like 2 seconds, but it doesn't like subtly change. It goes from Zack saying that Slater gave Screech a black eye to, 10 feet away from Zack, and, through two people, the story has changed to the point where Screech is in the ICU and he's on life support. But I'm like, are these people, like, what's wrong with these people? Isn't Screech in school? Like, he didn't stay home from school because he got a black eye. Nothing is wrong with him. He just got he got hit in the eye by his robot. And I believe that's the first step in the robot revolution. So everybody watch out. Kevin is the first robot to attack a human being, and robots are going to take over the world. So Zack started that rumor. Apparently nobody knows what Screech actually looks like because they believe he's in the ICU. But Zack says that Screech is, hurt, but he still wants to compete, and everybody buys into it. So the competition actually starts. The competition starts, and it's in the last 6 minutes of the show. Okay, I didn't realize how often this happens on Saved by the Bell. Like how often, the title of the episode, the event from the title of the episode doesn't happen until the very end. Like with the house party episode where you finally get the house party in the last 3 minutes of the episode. And in this, it's we finally get to this stupid Miss Bayside competition. And after all the talk about bikinis that Zack was doing, and we don't get any bikinis because the first part of the competition we see is the swimsuit competition. No bikinis around. We get some random girl who's a part of this competition, the only person outside of our Super Six that makes it into the pageant is some random blonde girl. And that girl and Kelly are wearing two of the most unflattering bathing suits that you will ever see. What was with late 80s, early 90s, high, those kind of those bathing suits that are really high on the thighs or really high on the hips that it's so unflattering. No matter how thin you are, because Kelly and the other girl are really thin, it just does not, it makes the butt look super flat. It's not flattering to anybody. I don't know why the 80s do that to people. I don't understand. And they also make the 80s made people look super old. No matter how old they are, it just made everybody look really old. Kelly is a young girl, but she's young here. She's a real actual 16, 17-year-old filming the show. And she actually looks younger when she's on Saved by the Bell as a young 20-year-old. So I don't know. Whatever. Why'd the 80s do that to people? I don't know what was it about the 80s that made everybody, that gave you unflattering pants, just unflattering clothes, and made you look super old. I mean, I was a baby for the 80s, so I don't know. I'm so glad I skipped over that. Although at other times, I feel like I would be such a great 80s person. I could totally rock Lisa's curly side ponytail. That was my dream, to have the ringlets that Lisa has in her hair all the time, to have that in my hair. I actually have a picture that I will never show anyone ever. It was a school picture though, where I had hair that was kind of similar to Lisa's. So I had the Shirley Temple curls. That's what they called, right? I don't know, but I had those curls, and for a very short time, I lived my dream of looking kind of like Lisa Turtle. And so during the swimsuit competition, Jessie comes out in a trench coat. And, she describes her bathing suit, but she basically says, you don't need to see what my bathing suit looks like. Even though if you went to the beach with me, with me and my friends at any point in time, you would see me in a bathing suit. And this is like really not a big deal. So, and we never see Lisa in the bathing suit. I wonder if that was because Lark Voorhees was actually super religious. I get all my information from that bad Lifetime movie that came out a few years ago. So, and that movie said that Lark Voorhees' family was super religious, and so, which is why you never see her like really. Well, you do see her kiss people at a certain. I don't know. Lisa was the only one that actually wanted to do this this pageant, and she's the one that you barely see. That's another thing. My memory of this show is that Lisa was in it a whole lot more than she actually is. So I guess that's, another disappointment that I have, that my memory of Lisa is just so much bigger than she actually is in the show. That makes me sad. Poor Lisa. She's so pretty and she gets ignored. And we all know why. Anyway, so Slater comes out and he's wearing his, his high tops and his, really short, like, he's not wearing like the Speedo, but he's wearing swim trunks, but they're like short shorts. If you've ever seen like basketball players like back in the day, he's wearing short shorts like those short shorts. Slater's really he's really into showing off his body, and I can appreciate it. Hey, if you got a body like Slater's, you want to show it off. I'm all about equality. And if Slater wants to show his body off like an Instagram thought, then, an early 90s pre-Instagram thought, I am here for it. I support your right to show your body, Slater. So Slater comes out. He doesn't have a top on. He has his short shorts on. And the audience is dead silent. Slater gets zero applause. The audience is just sitting there staring at him. So he starts doing these like Mr. Universe poses. Like if you've ever seen like those strong men that are like super muscular and oiled up. I think it's called Mr. Universe. Whatever that is. And those guys that are on steroids and they have those, well, I don't know if they're on steroids, but they're probably on steroids. And they have those like really like oiled up brown bodies, and it's, super white guys that are like really like overly George Hamilton tan. And he's doing poses like that, and he's, putting his he's like stretching his legs out, and he looks ridiculous. And still nothing. And Mr. Belding is standing on stage. Mr. Belding like doesn't know what to do. Slater is like still posing, and he's trying to show off his body in the right angle, and he is getting nothing. It is it's kind of sad, but it's like funny because he's like in his head, I know he's like thinking like, what the fuck is going on? I'm Slater. Have you seen me? Like, look at me. I'm the female Kelly around here. I wear tank tops every day just so I can have my guns out, so you can all see how great my body is, and nothing. So Slater gets no reaction from the audience. Then Screech comes out, and Screech is wearing like this 1920s one piece like men's swimsuit. It's really weird. I don't know why he wore it, why they didn't just put him in a pair of swim trunks and just let him wear a top, but nope. he had to wear that thing because he's Screech and he has to be the quirkiest of quirky people. So he comes out with his black eye and his one-piece swimsuit, and he gets a standing ovation, and Mr. Belding is like shocked. He doesn't know what's going on. So we get to the finalist, and the finalist is the random blonde girl, Kelly, Lisa, and Screech. And so it's basically just the final question, and random blonde girl, is a dumbass and she doesn't understand anything. Kelly gets asked a question about peace, and she's like, I think you can't just talk about peace, you have to cheer about it. So her dumbass does a peace cheer, and Kelly. Lisa gets asked about, beauty or being pretty or something like that. And she leases it and, talks about being pretty and she likes it. And then Screech is the only person that gets like, it's basically, they didn't even try to make it seem like, Screech should win. They just gave him the most basic of basic questions. Like it's, they just lobbed it up for him to hit it out, and to be just, all he had to do was be a little introspective, or just not even introspective. He just had to be a little bit sincere and he was going to win, because the rest of them were just terrible. So Screech gets asked about what he learned from the pageant. How is that a final question? Why didn't everybody just get the peace question? Why was that a final question for anything? Like, what did you learn? How do you even, whatever. Screech is like, he gives a fairly heartfelt answer, and he says that the people shouldn't vote for him. They should vote for one of the other people, one of the women up there, because he's Screech, and look at him. Nobody is really going to vote for him to win Miss Bayside, California, or Miss High School, California, whatever. Nobody's going to vote for him in the next competition. And, everybody claps for that. Yet we get to, the final announcement, when Mr. Belding is about to announce the winner. And Screech is surprised. Everybody's surprised when Mr. Belding announces that Screech has won. But I'm like, why is everybody surprised? Screech has been getting standing ovations throughout the entire damn competition. Like, how is anybody surprised about this? This is so stupid. And they crown him, and Lisa's salty, and she's over there like, why is this happening to me? Like, Screech is terrible. How could this happen? How could we lose to Screech? Kelly salty too, because she's like, I'm Kelly. Don't you all see me right here? I'm Kelly. So Screech wins, and Mr. Belding is like singing isn't he lovely? Or I don't know. Whatever. Screech won. And this was an episode of Saved by the Bell that I was obviously more angry about than I realized, because this goddamn show. So that's it. And what am I gonna do next? This is episode 8. What is episode? Episode 9. Oh my God. I believe, if I'm right, I have to go check, but I think episode 9 is Jessie's song. Yay! Oh, we made it. Jessie's song. If you've never seen an episode of Saved by the Bell, it's where all the memes come from. It's we got drug problems. We got a singing group. It's amazing. This is what Saved by the Bell is. Jessie's song. I'm so excited. And that was just an accident when I just said I'm so excited, but I am so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared. This is so great. So, that's it. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a 5-star review. Follow me on Twitter at TINerdPod. Follow me personally on Twitter at TheMissIntrovert, because I'll be like I always say, I'll be live tweeting, and I just started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh my god, y'all. That show is so damn good. I'm like 5 seasons behind, but I'm binge watching it. As soon as I get finished recording this, I'm going to watch as many episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as I can watch until Black Lightning comes on, and then I'm going to, I don't know, go to sleep to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., whatever. I'm binge watching it. The show was great. So I'm going to try to live tweet it. So follow me at TheMissIntrovert, because that's where I live tweet all my stuff, and I'll announce when I'm live tweeting on TI Nerdpod. So follow me there too. Follow me everywhere. On Instagram, I'm at TheIntrovertedNerd, and like Facebook.com/TheIntrovertedNerd, and I don't know. I make announcement there. It's always fun. And that. Oh, and if you want to email me, because I do a Black Lightning podcast every week, and leave me feedback for Black Lightning. What do you think about Tobias Whale and Lady Eve, and when Jennifer's going to get powers, if Jennifer is going to get powers, what's happening with Anissa and Grace? Just, you don't know what I'm talking about if you don't watch Black Lightning, but you should be watching Black Lightning, because that show is fucking awesome. It's probably the best DC superhero show that's on right now. It's better than The Flash right now. And I don't watch Arrow, but if you like that show, whatever. I'm not making fun of your show, but whatever. So that's it. Until next week with Jessie song. Later, Gators.